So on Thursday, a change to PID was made to make it randomized once every 60 to 90 seconds from being randomized once every game tick. This is an update that only affects PvP. However, with the change of PID, abusing the system by, quote, tick-eating has become a lot easier during PvP. Tick-eating is when you heal after your opponent has started to attack you, but before the hit actually lands. Basically, the game calculates the damage you or your opponent will deal a split second before the hit actually shows up. People with a good understanding of the game's engine and how PID works can use this to tank indefinitely by letting their health fall to a very low amount and then eating after the damage has been calculated but before the damage has been received. On screen you can see this taking place as a guy with a tentacle whip is attacking a player with 1 defense, but he cannot hit over a 3 because the way the old school RuneScape is coded, it only allows a player to deal damage maximum to whatever the health their opponent has. This, coupled with a 0.6 second delay of the hit actually registering, means that if you eat during those 0.6 seconds, you, like I said, can tank indefinitely or until PID switches. As of now, Jegex's old school mod Matt K has addressed this situation on a Reddit topic today, saying that he will be looking into what causes this. Now, this is great if it gets fixed for PvP and allows players to always be able to hit their max hit and not their opponent's max health, but what if it has an unintended effect on PvM? Let's talk about that. Now, this could very seriously affect PvM, as players that do one prayer fire capes or utilize this, quote, game mechanic, and I'll be very careful to not say abuse the system, for things like taking bandos. If the entire damage dealing and damage receiving system runs off of the same base code, which I would take a guess and say it probably does, if this gets fixed to where everything, monsters or players, have a chance to hit their max hit instead of only being able to hit the max amount of damage based on their opponent's health, tick-eating bandos, or using things like Purple Sweets or Guthix Restores to do one prayer fight caves would become impossible to do. Now, to help me discuss this update from a much more experienced PvM standpoint, I have notorious Fire Caper and current world record holder for the lowest level with the Fire Cape at level 25 on the line here today, Rendi Mento. Rendi, thank you for agreeing to be interviewed, man. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great, Evan. I'm actually really glad you contacted me today for this interview. It's made my day a bit more interesting.
Well, hey, man, it's great to have you. I've never actually done an interview before, so I'm hoping everything goes well. But, I know that you're a Fire Caper, of course. Do you know or have an estimate of how many Fire Capes you think you've done on Old School RuneScape?
I really don't have a specific amount, but on old school alone, I've probably done about around 150 fire capes.
Oh my.
Yeah, I actually got started doing fire capes around 2010, and I had tried literally for 3 years before that to even get a fire cape. Like I started in 2007, and literally I would go on tangents where I'd maybe go for 5 attempts, and every single attempt, I'd get to Jad, and I was a bit younger back then, so I would just my nerves would probably get to me, and I would just always mess up on Jad. So I probably went through, 25 attempts of fire capes before I actually got my first fire cape, which is pretty sad. But I feel like actually getting the Jad that many times taught me how to conserve my supplies. So that was the main focus every time I went in was how much supplies can I just hold on to this attempt, because I knew I was gonna fail towards the end at the 25th try. But yeah, then I moved into kiln capes when they were released,
Mm-hmm.
and I did probably 20 or 30 of those, and I probably did 50 fire capes around pre-EOC. I actually attempted to beat the kiln record in 2011, and that's when I made an account, which I needed to get the fire cape to sacrifice it at a really low level in order to get the kiln at the
Oh
lowest
yeah.
level possible. So after doing that, I realized I put it on YouTube, and my friend tells me, he's like, hey, that account's the lowest level on YouTube I think that there is for fire cape and pre-EOC. So I was like, really? So I looked into it, and it was level I think 36 at the time, and it was the lowest level on YouTube. So I retitled the video and said hey, lowest level cape. I was like, that's pretty cool.
That's
And
awesome.
and then a week later, some guy came and beat me. So
Nice, nice, nice. That's
yeah.
very cool, man. So would you say you're a pretty experienced PVMer overall, especially when it comes to bossing?
I don't know. I've done some God Wars. I've never actually done Court Beast ever.
Oh, neither have
Um,
I though, so you know.
Mainly fight caves is what I do. I can't really think of anything I'm that great at other than fight caves, specifically.
hmm
But I have pretty much done everything except for Corp. So
That's very cool. All right, man. Well, as you know, today's update, or I guess this last update, had a very big change to the way PID works on old school. PID's randomized every zero point 0.6 seconds, and as of now, it's only randomized every 60 to 90 seconds.
hmm
Now, although this doesn't inherently affect the way PVM works, if they decide to make it to where they fix PvP to where your max hit is no longer determined based on the health remaining, but more determined on how much your max hit is. This could change fight caves, which is why I wanted to bring you on here. So can you explain to me what exactly does tick eating involve when it comes to PVM in general? Because I'm more of a PvPer, so.
Yeah, and I feel like if they did fix PvP tick eating, that the way they would have to code it is it would most likely, at least defaultly, also fix PVM,
Mm-hmm.
unless they actually made a separate effort to maybe separate the two. But that's because apparently the way they fixed it in 2010, 2011, I think they added like a mechanic in the game to where they could tell if you ate between the tick before you got hit by an opponent, and that was either a player or a monster.
Right. It
So
was like determined the damage, or it determined the damage after it checked to see if you ate on that same game tick. Like it was the last process
yeah,
or something.
yeah. So I feel like they'd do something like that again, but hopefully not. Hopefully they'll maybe leave PVM separate.
Mm-hmm.
But tick eating and PVM is just the same thing. It involves basically eating between the attack animation and whenever you're dealt the damage. And I actually like discovered this mechanic a long time ago when I was like watching an old video from back in 2008 or 2009 where I saw this guy was like eating purple sweets within the fight caves as well. He was doing it against Jad, I believe. But somehow he was timing it just right to where he survived, and I didn't think anything of it, like maybe between game hits or whatnot back then.
Mm-hmm.
But then I came back to the video, in like 2013, and I thought to myself, well, maybe since this wasn't patched till 2009 on pre-EOC, well, why wouldn't it work now on old school? And I found out later that sure enough it did. And then in like 2014, I tried to use it on my low cape attempts, but I like saw that the method, still worked, but I was looking for a way to lure the 90s without dying, and I noticed that when in tick eating and PVM, you can't actually run towards the monster, or else it will basically like one tick you kind of like an MSB, it'll stack the hits on you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you also cannot run too far out of its range because the monsters in the fight caves, for example, have like the longest attack range
Mm-hmm.
there is in the game. So say you're very far away from the 360 trying to lure it, but you have to drag him out. So the 360 is going to fire off his first hit, and before that first hit even hits you, it's going to fire off a second hit. So it's going to act like you're in multi-damage combat. So, and you can't,
Oh, how about that?
yeah. So you can't take it in basically multi-damage combat because the game will just register it over your HP. Actually, whenever that happens, I'm
You
not exactly
know,
sure why.
you actually, you taught me something right here. I had wondered why only in certain instances you could use tick eating on Zora, because I do a lot of really low level Zora stuff. I learned how to do Zora at 1 def 75 mage 75 range. I don't know if you've done Zora before, um,
Yeah.
but so the mage phase, right?
Hmm.
Since I had like 63 health when I was doing these runs, like it was pretty common for me to get like double or even triple 40'd by the range when it's on blue phase, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes I could eat trick that, and then other times it wouldn't. And I just now realized that the times that I died would be like the times where it would have a blue phase and I have a whole bunch of minions around me, and I'd be like, why the fuck did I just get hit a 40? And
Yeah.
I did it perfectly.
Yeah.
But oh, that is crazy though.
Yeah. So like basically in fight caves, you would have to like individualize each NPC. You would have to be within its attack range, and you couldn't move around really, or else it would basically just overfire HP. So that's kind of like the trick to it. I
Okay.
believe in fight caves, but
Now, can you explain real quick for me what exactly eating purple sweets does after the damage is applied? Like how that works? I see a lot of people, they bring in like 3,000, 6,000 sweets, and they're able to just tank as much damage as they want. And I'm not really too familiar with how that works.
yeah, it's just you basically just eat the purple sweet between the attack animation and the damage that the animation from the NPC does on you. So say you're sitting at like 10 HP, the monster's going to predictably hit a 10 on you because you have 10 HP left. But before the hit actually hits you, and after he's already fired off his hit, you eat a sweet, go up to 11 HP. So he'll still hit a 10, but you'll be remaining with like 1 HP. So you
Very
basically just
cool.
continuously eat between the game animations.
I
And
gotcha.
yeah, so you're,
Do you know that if you have, let's say, 10 health and it's going to register 10 damage, if you eat a brew and heal up to 16, do you know if that makes you only take 10 damage? That might be
uh,
like really, niche
yeah,
question, but
yeah. I mean, it does, but like I've actually used that before. Like I'll get to Jad, and sometimes instinctively will heal up to full HP before Jad, And you actually can't tick eat at full HP because normally you can't eat a purple sweet
Mm-hmm.
at full HP because he could just one hit you and your HP wouldn't go up because you can't go past full HP
Right,
with a
right.
purple sweet. So you would just use a brew instead, and it would actually work. It would register however much percentage that brew would heal you above your HP, and he would only hit you for what your HP was before that. So
That's very cool. That's very good to know. Here I got another question for you, my man. As you know, Matt K was said he was going to look into how this works throughout the game engine and how it handles damage dealt and damage received, as we have discussed. Does this worry you that if they patch this, they could end up patching tick eating altogether and not just in PvP?
yeah, like I said, I definitely think that if they do patch it, they're most likely not going to take the time to separate PVM from PvP in the instance and probably just patch it all together.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I don't know because I was reading that Reddit post and I couldn't really tell if Mod Matt K was being serious or not. It seemed kind of like in the back of his mind he was thinking that he would regret moving ticketing because I remember him saying something about how he would have to code negative values for it to work or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, which would be probably kind of complicated. But I wouldn't expect them not to do it. I'm pretty sure they will do it because the last thing that happened with Reddit and Jagex hotfixing something was Gothics Rest,
Mm-hmm.
and Ian Spam posted a video about Gothics Rest, and literally the next day they hotfixed it into the game, and it was a top rated thread on Reddit.
See,
So
that makes me wonder though. Do you think this classifies as a bug, or does this classify as something that needs to be voted in, or it would ruin the old school feel?
well, like the Gothics Rest instance, it wasn't really a bug. I mean, Gothics Rest have always had zero cooldown whenever you eat them. You can eat them at like any game tick practically. But they decided to hotfix that. So, I wouldn't entirely doubt they'd do the same thing with this. They probably won't pull it because, I mean, I've actually had two instances already with fire capes that they've made updates to them and they haven't pulled them. One of them they didn't even mention in an update. It was just a hidden update. Um,
What were those? What were those updates? I'm kind of familiar,
uh,
but not
Yeah,
100%.
one was the one that a lot of people know that they actually told people about, which was the spawns logging out to reset spawns and fight caves, so people could
Yeah.
virtually continuously log out until they had NPCs on the north side of Italy, so they'd be protected from those. And then that wasn't that bad of a fix.
Right.
Just
That
make
was how
it
Pot of
real.
Sun was trying to teach all of us peers how to do fight caves. Was that you
Yeah.
keep logging at certain waves so that like what is it, wave 40 to 52 or whatever, you get like the waves that you can actually handle. So I can see why that would be very beneficial to low HPers or no prayers
Mm-hmm.
going in for fight caves.
Yeah, like when they removed that, people thought, one prayers weren't going to come back, but me and another person kind of figured out how to do it, and we kind of brought it back for pretty much any level, but it definitely was a lot harder to do. So, I mean, they kind of set back everyone who did it before that way, but, a couple people are still around that can still do one prayer fire capes, including me. And then the other update was they actually changed to it wasn't specifically for fight games, but somewhere along the line they changed the way the prayer mechanics work because I used to be able to actually two tick prayer flick. I would leave a prayer on for two ticks of game time. It wouldn't lower your prayer at all. And I had done this on multiple accounts, like over a 2 year period, and I never saw a problem with it. One day I logged on, was doing a fire cape and realized my prayer was like slowly decreasing. So that actually made it to where low level accounts with prayer, like I used to do, weren't able to like stay in the cave nearly as long because two tick flicking is actually a lot more safe than just doing a one tick flick for a 16-hour period, hoping you don't get some ping spike or something like that.
And you posted a video on this, did you not?
Yeah, that was when I posted a video on, and there wasn't any update or any notification that even happened. I just like discovered it one day after I had been probably not doing fire capes for a week or two, and I was like, okay.
Very cool. I'll make sure to show that because that's I do remember when that popped up and it was interesting. Yeah, I watched you. Yeah, it looked like you were doing perfect flicks and still losing prayer, and
Yeah,
that was
and
definitely interesting.
I actually have like a side by side in that video of like an
Hmm.
old Twitch VOD and the new video, and they're literally the same time, flicks, and for some reason, the new video I'm losing prayer points, but on the old one I'm not. And I actually contacted Mod Ash about that, and he said he doesn't know where that would have happened or what would have caused that. And that's the
Yeah.
only explanation he gave. But
Yeah, I do recall that. I found that very weird that it all of a sudden had a little bit of a change. Maybe that was an unintended change from something. I don't know. I feel
Yeah,
like if it
maybe.
was something that they was or that was intentionally changed, we would have had at least a little bit of notice of it.
Hmm.
But anyway, back to that whole PID issue. Do you think that they should go out of their way to make sure that PvP changes for PID don't affect the way the PVM system is, or do you think it should maybe something else?
You know, I think honestly in PvP, tick eating even with the PID update is still a little bit difficult to do because anyone can just see your tick eating and stack some kind of hit with the current like decently slow weapon they're using, such as like a one tick combo or even just a DDS spec, and you can't really tick eat through a multi stack hit splat. It doesn't work like that. It'll hit over your HP. So
Hmm.
I feel like that might need fixing because it does look a little bit honestly more broken after that I saw that video. But then again, you also can't really tick eat if I think they have PID on you.
Yeah, I
If
think
it's the
that's the
opposite,
case. I
so
can't
it would
say for
only be in
certain,
that
but
60 to 90-second period that you could actually tick eat, and then also you have to rely on your food cooldown. So say you're eating like sharks or whatnot, and you don't know when they're going to pull AGS, so you can't necessarily tick eat an AGS if you're still waiting to hit like eat another food.
right.
And they removed the Guthix rest effect where you could do that at any time. So
Yeah, it
uh,
definitely significantly slows down your DPS. Do you think if it's or I'm sorry, do you think it's even worth addressing the PvP issue, or do you think it should just let it
um,
go?
I think even though it is still a bit difficult to do, it's definitely easier. They should maybe do something about that. I'm kind of split on it. Either way, would, honestly, would be fine with me because I really don't PvP as much as I used to. But definitely, I feel like they should go out of their way to maybe try and not fix the e-ticking within PVM. Just, I mean, if they do, the only reason I feel like it would make some people mad because the first update they did with the spawns, people got really mad on Reddit. There was a
Mm-hmm.
top thread Reddit post about it, how now like there's not going to be the possibility of people with one pair of fire capes anymore, and they were even suggesting make it a 40 prayer requirement to wield a fire cape, blah blah
Yeah,
blah.
I
Yeah,
remember that.
so I feel like people would do that again. Um, Other than that, though, I mean, it wouldn't bother me a whole lot. I'm not on as much as I used to. I don't do as many fire capes as I used to, but it still would probably bother me a bit. And I actually DM'd Chris Archie about it, and I was like, hey, if you guys end up actually fixing, PVM as well, like let me know like when that date is, because I might, go try at least like one last crazy fight cave feat before you do that, just for the hell of it.
That's cool. That's very cool. I mean, I guess that leads us into do you think it'd be fair for all of their future accounts if they made this change? Like, this would. I mean, I assume if they were to do this, this would make low
Hmm.
level fire caves almost impossible, if not impossible.
Yeah, it would definitely make low levels impossible. I could maybe do it on like a near max main without overheads, but really, how many max mains are there without overheads?
Hmm.
And like basically the majority of people who want low level prayer fire capes are peers. So I feel like that would make them impossible until some other update or some weird thing comes out, maybe. But I feel like it really wouldn't be fair, but at the same time, it wouldn't be terrible, I guess, because it's like back in RS3. I know they had level 1 accounts. They made those extinct. They did resets, stuff like that. That was just unfair, which somehow didn't have consequence. But people got over it. But I definitely am on the side of them not fixing it in PVM.
Good to hear, man. Mento, man, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to answer some questions. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you for having me.
Alright, guys, that was Rendi Mento. Make sure you go check out his channel, man. I'll put a link right in the description. It's also on screen right now. He's a great guy, and I really do appreciate him coming out here and just, spitting some fire for us all. So that'll be the end of the video. Make sure you guys go ahead and give it a like if you enjoyed it. Maybe even a favorite if you really, really enjoyed it. But until next time, I'll see you guys all in the next video.